Hello everybody. So sorry I'm recording this on my phone, but I'm not going to get home until really late tonight, and I kind of wanted to get my hot take out there while the topic was still fresh. So the EU election has come and gone. I think the results were, generally speaking, pretty good. The grand coalition of the center-right and center-left have lost their majority. So that's good. It does show things are changing. But what I'd like to talk about is Sargon of Akkad, aka Carl Benjamin. And as you guys know, I've been very critical of Sargon in the past. I've made fun of him, that kind of thing. But I try to be a fair guy. Is a bit of it motivated by wanting to be contrarian? Maybe, but I still trying to be fair. Like, I try to be fair to DSP. I try to be fair to whoever. And in this case, I'm going to say I've actually gained a lot of respect for Sargon. I still disagree with him on a lot of issues. I still think he's very smug and kind of arrogant, but I have gained a lot of respect for him. So when he first joined UKIP, I heavily criticized it because I said that I thought he was just doing it as a publicity stunt. And at the time, he kind of worded it that way, like, I just joining so I can say I'm part of a political party. So I said it's going to be like the Liberalists, it's going to be like Gamergate 2.0, it's just going to be something he's going to do and then immediately leave and not commit to. And I'm man enough to admit that I was wrong. Sargon stuck to it. He actually went out and ran for a seat, which I don't know, you can say that he ran in a constituency where he had no real chance of winning, but he did run and he did make an effort at it. So I have to give him a lot of respect for that, for actually like doing the legwork, putting in the time. And regardless of how you feel about his candidacy, whether you felt he did the best job he could or if it was a disaster and he completely botched it up, I think it does take courage to run for public office. And I think it does take a lot of courage to have basically everybody in the country smear you and try to take you down and say you're a horrible person. He had people protest against him. He got banned from venues. I'm sure lots of people sent him death threats. I know people are always like, oh, it's the death threats, but it's scary. Like, don't tell me it wouldn't be scary if people were sending death threats against you and your family. And he had acts of violence committed against him. I mean, we can laugh at the milkshake thing, but that's scary. That shows that the people hate you enough that they're willing to take physical violence against you. And you don't know if they're just going to be throwing milkshakes. They could be throwing acid, they could be throwing paint, they could be throwing rocks, they could be throwing knives. There's all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, it takes balls to go out there and repeatedly get hit with milkshakes. Because once again, like I said, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know like what these people are going to do. They have proven to you that they're willing to engage in acts of violence against you. So I do think it took a lot of balls for him to run and to continue along despite the fact that he was facing all this. And it is hard. Like, there's this whole meme, I don't care what people think about me. That's very, very rarely the case. It does hurt. It does hurt when like everyone's calling you, like in his case, a pedophile and like a Nazi and all that kind of stuff. So I tip of the hat to him. Now, I'm going to take issue with what Jim and some other people have said. Now, Jim is a professional troll. Intellectual honesty isn't really like one of his goals, but I kind of have to take issue with what him and some other people are saying, that it was Sargon's fault that UKIP lost the election, which I've seen a number of people say. Now, did he help them? Probably not. But that's not what cost UKIP the election. What cost UKIP the election was when Nigel Farage founded the Brexit Party back in the end of last year and eventually became the leader of it. And he took like 90% of UKIP's voter base with him. And he was kind of doing, in my view, kind of a clever move, because by distancing himself from UKIP and kind of the other things that had developed around UKIP, because UKIP had some right-wing populist ideas, some nationalist ideas, all that kind of thing. And so he just founded a single-issue party to try to create a broad coalition, which seems to have worked, since it seems like most of the conservative voters swung in his direction, just to make as broad a coalition as possible to focus on withdrawal from the EU. And UKIP in its various forms have always been dependent upon Farage as an individual. They've been dependent upon his charisma, his force of personality, his organization, his prestige. These are all things that Nigel Farage has brought to the party. So when he left and he took everybody with him and he became the leader of the rival party, I think they were screwed no matter what. Now, the first poll after Sargon announced he was running in April showed that UKIP had lost a lot of percentage of the votes. But I think it has to be kept in mind, Nigel formally became leader of the party around that time period. And some of the polls showed UKIP up, some of the polls showed UKIP around that area. So, is it really his fault? I don't think you can make that point. I think you can make the point that maybe it hurt their chances. But ultimately, if 90% of your party's elected officials defect, and the leader, kind of the force of personality, defects, it's like if Bebe in Israel founded his own party, and 90% of the Likud members went with him, and then Likud lost the election. It's not really the fault of the remaining members. They weren't working with very much. Also, the media, especially once Farage, kind of the I don't know I'm just using their terminology. The moderate members were gone. The media could really lay into UKIP. And Jim and some other people were talking about how, like, Paul Joseph Watson and some other UKIP members near the end were saying to vote for the Brexit Party. And I mean, that makes sense. I don't really get why that was necessarily a betrayal, because UKIP was clearly not going to win any seats. All the polls showed it was way, way down. And I think a lot of people said, okay, we just want Brexit at the end of the day, so we'll jump on the winning team. And we're so far down, it doesn't really matter. A few thousand votes might help out the Brexit Party get a couple extra seats, but it's not going to help UKIP get one seat. So I don't really see how that was a betrayal or how that was throwing Sargon under the bus. That was just kind of the realities of the situation. And then the other point I wanted to make is a lot of people have criticized Gerard Batten and UKIP's decision to let him run. And once again, I think this is a hindsight is 2020 thing. I don't think it was necessarily that bad an idea. Because, I mean, Trump was a reality TV star and he won. Arnold Schwarzenegger was a movie star and he won. Zelensky in Ukraine played a president on TV and he won. And his party's probably going to win a landslide in the parliamentary elections. So it's not as if these things don't happen. And besides that, UKIP, like I said, was dead in the water long before... not like the Brexit Party had broken off months ago. Farage had announced that he was leader, that kind of thing. The party was in big trouble. So I don't really see why it was so illogical for Gerard Batten to throw the dice, to go, okay, we're dying here. Let's try something new. Let's try something kind of different. I actually don't see why it was that bad an idea. Because, I mean, UKIP was going to get slandered no matter what. People like, oh, Sargon, he ruined UKIP's reputation. UKIP was already despised by the media. I don't know how much it actually made it worse. He did bring a lot of attention to them. He did bring a lot of attention. He did bring a lot of star power. I don't know how much he impacted donations or votes. But I really don't think it was that dumb an idea. There's lots of political movements that are driven by the persona of one person. Like, for instance, La République En Marche, if that's how you pronounce it, Macron's party, isn't really a political party. It's just made to support him. But because Macron won by such a large margin, they wound up winning a huge majority in the French Parliament, or I guess National Assembly in France. So there's stuff like that. Solidarity Electoral Action was based on Lech Walesa. Likud is basically just Bebe and friends at this point in time. I forget what the name of that. The Fujimori had a political party that was just based around him. So maybe it's kind of weird that Sargon wasn't the leader, but they were screwed. Like, keep in mind, they had lost 90% of their seats. They only had 2 people left, I think, by the end. And I don't see why rolling the dice on something kind of unusual was that stupid an idea. Okay, it didn't work out, so maybe next time, but I don't know. Who dares wins. You might as well take something like a 1 in 4 chance of succeeding rather than 100% chance of losing. So that's my thoughts. I don't think the thing was as bad as people said it was. I gained a lot of respect for Sargon, and I just hope that Britain leaves the EU. So that's my thoughts on the matter. God bless. This is Argent. We must dissent.